Now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Bride of Dracula. Goddess Next Door and John Haynes team up to take on the Dark Vampire in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Bride of Dracula in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Marvel Comics recently announced plans to relaunch two previously failed titles, Marvel's Unstoppable Wasp and Marvel's Iceman. Now, they say the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. And when I look at the decision to go out here and relaunch both the Unstoppable Wasp and Iceman, I clearly have to see that Marvel's new editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski, is completely certifiable. Both Unstoppable Wasp and Iceman had abysmal sales during their initial runs, and Unstoppable Wasp was canceled right around the 6th issue. Iceman went on to do an entire year of books, but over that year, Iceman's sales were completely declined, and both books wound up being roasted by comic YouTubers like Diversity in Comics and many others who panned the poor quality writing, the poor quality storytelling, and the poor quality art. And when I look at the decision by C.B. Cebulski to go out here and relaunch both of these failed books, it clearly shows me he really does not have any understanding of the publishing business. Because when you go out here and relaunch two previously failed books, it shows that either you're extremely incompetent as an editor-in-chief, or you just don't care. And when I take a look at C.B. Cebulski, it's clear to me that from his decision to relaunch these two previously failed titles, he just doesn't care about anything that the customer says. Now, when it came down to the customer, they expressed their disinterest in these books by not buying them. However, when I look at C.B. Cebulski's decision to greenlight both of these books for another run, it clearly shows me the contempt he has for comic shop owners. Now, back in October of 2017, many comic shop owners confronted representatives of Marvel about the failed diversity campaign and the direction of many of their titles. And they confronted them because many of the books that they were publishing were leading to them having incredibly poor sales and not being able to sell comics in their comic shops. And this confrontation at New York Comic Con was something that was building up for the last 2 years, and many comic shop owners said enough was enough. Now, after this confrontation, Marvel Comics management said that they would go in a new direction, and that direction was Marvel's Fresh Start. Now, this Fresh Start was supposed to be an initiative that was meant to show comic fans and comic shop owners that Marvel was serious about changing its direction and giving the customer and comic shop owners the kind of comics that they wanted. Now, when we take a look at this decision to relaunch the Unstoppable Wasp and Iceman, we clearly see that Marvel Comics was being disingenuous when they talked about having a fresh start, and that they lied in the faces of all of those comic shop owners who believed in good faith that Marvel was going to do something to change its direction with this Fresh Start initiative. No, with the relaunching and announcement of relaunching Unstoppable Wasp and Iceman, they clearly show how much contempt they have for comic shop owners and comic fans. And with this decision to go out here and relaunch Unstoppable Wasp and Iceman, what Marvel has done is put a middle finger up at comic fans and put a middle finger up at the comic shop owners who trusted them to go out here and participate in this Fresh Start initiative and make an effort to try to provide the types of products that comic shop owners would want for their business. And when I take a look at this decision by C.B. Cebulski to approve Iceman and Unstoppable Wasp for another print run, again, it shows me he just does not care about Marvel comic fans, nor does he care about comic shop owners, nor does he care about this business. It's all about what the editorial at Marvel want to push on the comic fan, not about giving the customer the type of product that they want to see from Marvel Comics. And seeing this type of bad faith, really, it rubs me the wrong way as a publisher. As a publisher myself, running my own SJS Direct imprint, I make every effort to go out here and give my customers what they want. And I'll go out here and I will go out here and sacrifice and sell my own toy collection and parts of my toy collection on eBay in an effort to give my customers a high quality cover by professional artists like Bill Walko, because they complained about the quality of their covers. And when I look at somebody like C.B. Cebulski, who works for a multi-million-dollar corporation, and him showing complete disrespect for comic fans, that really irks me, because again, if I can go out of my way to give my customers high quality products, then why can't the people at Marvel Comics with over a couple of $100 million in their budget go out of their way to give customers that same type of product that's high quality and give them a high quality reading experience? I go out of my way to make sacrifices for my customers because I care so much about my customers that I want to give them the best quality reading experience. But when I take a look at what they're doing at Marvel, it's a literal slap in the face to all of those fans who go out of their way to go to comic shops and spend their money on Marvel Comics. And it's a big slap in the face and a punch in the jaw to many of these comic shop owners who go out here and order Marvel Comics because, again, they ordered these comics and believed in C.B. Cebulski's Fresh Start initiative. And for him to go out here and relaunch 2 titles that many people panned and many people called SJWMarvel and continue to push the social justice and false diversity initiative, that is, again, an expression of complete contempt for the comic fan, and it's something that comic fans just shouldn't stand for. When it comes down to companies that show the customer this amount of disrespect and this amount of disdain, I have to say this is where the comic fan just has to say enough is enough and vote with their wallet. Because for this company to relaunch these titles, which literally were absolutely terrible, it's a slap in the face to them. I mean, I've looked at this Unstoppable Wasp, and this whole concept was absolutely an awful concept that they put in this book. Here we have this Nadia Pym Van Dyne, whatever they call her, and this is a character many people would say is a terrible character, and I have to agree it's a terrible character because she's flat, she's one-dimensional, and she comes across as an arrogant, mean-spirited character. There's nothing there that the reader can identify with, there's nothing that the reader can relate to, and there's nothing there for the reader to connect to. And it's just her and her Burger King Kids Club having adventures, but they're not having adventures that would be even considered in the spirit of a Marvel comic. I have not seen this so-called Unstoppable Wasp show me her that she does anything that shows that she's unstoppable, like showing that she has unstoppable grit, unstoppable determination, and any sort of effort to show that she can do anything to overcome the odds. In any of the 6 issues that were presented, I saw nothing in that character that showed me anyone that anyone could care about, and I didn't see the writer make any efforts to build any sort of rogues gallery around this character to show that this character is someone we need to take seriously. And I saw nothing there but a flaky attempt to say that she's this brilliant scientist, but I didn't see anything as related to weight of depth. Now, when I was writing Isis, Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, I created this Dr. Rahima Sanders, who was this scientist who worked at a cosmetics company. And I put a lot of depth and layers into that character, doing research into things like the Ebony Fashion Fair, and then also doing research on things like nanotechnology, computers, and even biology and medicine. Because when it came down to cosmetics, there's a lot of science behind it. But when I did it, I tried to make efforts to make it something accessible to the reader, and I also tried to put some sci-fi elements in there to make it interesting for the reader. But when I look at Unstoppable Wasp and its approach to science, it shows to the reader that it's just science on the surface, but there's nothing there as related to, science that we use every day, or trying to make efforts to make some sort of approach towards creating something that's accessible from a science fiction perspective. It's just a shallow, one-dimensional character and a shallow, one-dimensional story, and she never faces any sort of challenges or obstacles that show that she has that, again, unstoppable grit, unstoppable determination, or any sort of effort to overcome any sort of obstacles. All the stories are her and her friends hanging out, and that's not what people come to a superhero comic for. If I come to a book like Unstoppable Wasp and I'm going to see this character, I want to see things like her legacy and connection to Henry Pym and Janet Van Dyne. I want to see her connection to Pym particles. I want to see her using Pym particles in creative and resourceful ways. And I want to see her working on, scientific innovations and ideas in the same way that her father did. I want to see something that really connects me to this character and the legacy of Henry Pym. I did not see any of that in any of these comics. All I saw in these Unstoppable Wasp comics was something that was basically another Mary Sue character who was just there to hang out in the Marvel Universe. And I believe the only reason why Unstoppable Wasp is being brought back is because it was Tom Brevoort's baby. Now, Tom Brevoort was the one who was heavily behind this book, and the only reason why I believe it's coming back is because he is the one who wants it to come back. In spite of the terrible sales and the critical panning it's received, it's only being brought back as a vanity project to sate Tom Brevoort's ego, not because it's a top quality comic that has an audience and is selling on the regular. Now, when it comes down to Iceman, this is another book that is sold incredibly poorly. And the reason why it's sold incredibly poorly is because it's a literal gay stereotype all in front of us. Now, when it comes down to the Iceman character, he was never a homosexual character. Ever since I read this character back in old issues of X-Men and watched him on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, he was a heterosexual character. And when we take a look at this new direction for Iceman, it's not one that's organic to the character. And that's why many comic fans were cold on Iceman. And they were made even colder because instead of trying to give us a multi-dimensional character that showed us he was going to be a hero, no, we got a bunch of gay stereotypes presented to us in many of these Iceman stories. And instead of us seeing this character trying to overcome obstacles or take on supervillains, what we got were a bunch of stories that literally were just all over the place. And when the Iceman character, again, he's not really one of the better characters in Marvel, because when it comes down to the Iceman character, he's kind of two-dimensional. But when I look at this approach at Iceman with this Sienna Grace, he clearly shows me he has not really done a lot of research on the character, because the Iceman I grew up with was a jokester, he was a fun guy, and we never got any of those elements of Iceman that made him a cool character. We never got him making jokes, we never got him flirting with people, we never got him using his ice powers in incredibly creative ways like he did back in the 90s when the White Queen amped him up and he became, the Iceman with the spikes and was able to make all sorts of constructs. We never got to see Iceman do anything Iceman related to his history as a character. And that again shows me that your Sienna Grace was a grossly unqualified writer for this character, because he didn't understand the Iceman character, the Iceman character's history, or the Iceman character's powers, the things that people came to an Iceman book for, but he didn't give us any of that. All he gave us was a bunch of gay drama that was filled with stereotypes, and that wasn't something that would be appealing to a reader. Now, with both of these books, again, they were not top quality, and both of them did not meet the Marvel standard. And they should have just been canceled, and it should have been that. But because Marvel's fresh start was a false start, and they want to continue pushing a social justice narrative, they've decided to bring both of these books back. And with this decision, to bring both of these books back, they have literally slapped comic fans in the face, slapped comic shop owners in the face, and shown that they are not serious about making any sort of serious change, and that if comic fans want serious change, what they're going to have to do is go out here and support independent publishers like myself and the SJS Direct imprint, support independent publishers like Diversity in Comics and its Jawbreakers Lost Souls, and support independent publishers like Ethan Van Sciver and his Cyberfrog, and support independent publishers like Chuck Dixon. Because as I see it, the direction of the comic book industry is heading more and more towards creator-owned properties, because creators understand that the publishers like Marvel and DC, they have become completely infested with many of these far-left ideologues, and these far-left people, what they want to do is push their political agendas and not think about the customer. Whereas the creators are thinking about the customer, and they want to give the customer the best reading experience that they would have, and they want to provide customers with the products that they want. And that's one of the things that many comic fans have to really start thinking about is, do you want to continue supporting a product like Marvel because it has a brand name, or do you want to support creators who want to go out of their way to give you the very best products, the very best reading experience, and the very best customer service? As a publisher myself, this is what I want to give my customers. I want to give them great quality books, and I want to give them great reading experiences in my stories. And I want to go out of my way to give my customers great customer service, because I value my customers. I appreciate all the customers who go out of their way to go out and buy books like the Isis series, the E-Steam series, and the Temptation of John Haynes and the Spinsterella trilogy. I appreciate every purchase you make, and I'm very grateful for every purchase you make. And that's something that the people at Marvel just aren't these days. When it comes down to Marvel's editorial and many of the creative people who work at Marvel, they have taken their customers for granted. They have absolutely no respect for those customers. They have no respect for the history of these Marvel characters, and they express their contempt directly to those customers by going out here and relaunching books that the customer has already told them, plain and simple, that they do not want. And doubling down on publishing books that the customer does not want, again, is a complete expression of contempt for the customer and a complete expression of absolute disrespect for those customers. And it's an even bigger expression of disrespect for those comic shop owners. And what comic fans need to do at this point as related to Marvel is vote with their wallet and make efforts to vote and support many of the independent comic creators and independent comic publishers who want to give the customer what they want, and give those companies your money, because those companies are going to be the future of the comic book industry, and it's going to be those companies that make efforts to keep the comic book industry alive at this point. At this point, as I see it, Marvel Comics has completely given up on its comic fans in the hopes of trying to find a phantom audience, and at this point, it's time for comic fans to go ghost on Marvel. If you'd like to try some of my SJS Direct publications like the Isis series, the E-Steam series, the Temptation of John Haynes, the John Haynes series, and the Spinsterella trilogy, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, Escape from Transylvania. The goddess next door and John Haynes must escape a horde of vampires on the hunt in this horror-filled Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Escape from Transylvania in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.